Hello and welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Club. I am one of your hosts, Sheena Garcia.
And I'm your other host, Jerry Garcia. So this is our first recording since getting married, and congratulations to us, and we'll move on with the show now.
Yes, but today we wanted to talk about sales and how in any business, sales is really the lifeblood of it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about building up and all the things you need to do to build and scale, but we wanted to take this episode to kind of talk about what to do first, because you can't build all of those things if you forget the lifeblood of your business, which is actual revenue.
Yeah. And I talk tons about cash flow, but I mean, where does cash flow come from except originally from sales? So if you have no sales, you will naturally just have no cash flow. And I was actually, I've been listening to the book Ready, Fire, Aim. I don't know if I like it or not yet, but this part of the book I agree with. And he was talking about how so many people neglect sales. And he was actually even talking about in business school, how they do a lot of talk about marketing and operations, all this stuff, but sales is kind of seen as that which shall not be discussed. Like it's something that just happens automatically, and it's not really something that is taken very seriously. And he said that when you go to, when he used to go to parties and he would say he was a salesperson, people would kind of, like, ooh, you're a salesperson. But that sales is truly the lifeblood of any business. And that's how you prove that even a concept is something that people want.
Yeah, I think sales is a very misunderstood profession in general, because I think when we all hear sales, the first thing we think of are the type of salespeople that we all hate, and not realizing that you're sold to all the time. You're sold to in every aspect of your life. You're sold in dating life. You're sold in home purchases. You're sold in car purchases. And those traditional kind of exchanges are what people mostly think of when they think about sales. But when you're talking to a good salesperson, it never feels like you're being sold to. And that's how I've always approached sales, was never to convince you to buy something or to use me. It was to educate, and to educate you on what it is you're looking at, or what it is that what problem that you need to solve. And naturally you come to that decision of purchasing on your own.
Every single item has some sort of value to someone. And some people buy on price, some people buy on because they want a luxury item. There's a million different reasons a person buys. But at the end of the day, you need to know why your client is purchasing from you, and you need to sell. In the book, he was talking about, all these entrepreneurs that he meets that have all these great ideas, and they think to themselves, oh, once I get the pretty website and the this and the that, then I'll have all these people just automatically buying my product. And that's just not the reality of the situation. I mean, you can even see it on like Shark Tank when people come in and what is the first thing that the sharks ask them? How much have you sold? And my favorite, I always try to guess. I'm like, oh, they're pre-revenue. All pre-revenue means is we haven't sold any. $0. Yes. Give us money so that we can just not sell anything.
Fancy way to say that we haven't sold anything yet. I mean, it's pre-revenue, right?
Yeah.
Revenue is the first thing in your business.
You have to go and prove your concept. Every single, if you watch Shark Tank, they say this all the time. They're like, why would I give you more money if you don't even know if the market wants to buy this? You don't even know if you have anybody that wants it.
Brands that are very established and they look great, and they've got great marketing, they've got the great website, they've got the great logo, everything looks very clean about them. And I think that's important as you grow and scale. But on the initial kind of launching of your company, really you have to have that proof of concept. You did that a lot with your Pocket CFO, and in building your business, you just kind of went out there and you sold you as the product, and then the rest of the stuff has come along the way.
I actually wasn't even established with the Secretary of State until 3 years. All of that came later, because I was like, oh, let's see if, honestly, I didn't think anyone would buy it. I went the way that worked really well, but it was not the traditional way, because I was like, okay, let's see if I can actually get a client. And then after a few clients, I was like, oh, hey, this is, I like this is working out. Maybe I should, have a business card and have a business name and be a little legitimized. And so all of that to now what we're doing this year, expanding and growing and scaling and helping more people. But yeah, originally it was just like, you're having some tax issues, I can help you. You don't know how to do your books, I can help, just the people I knew.
There's definitely an in-between to that, right? You can either start with I'm going to spend all this money on the front end and hope that my proof of concept is great because everyone's going to assume I'm a longer established business, or you can say, I am just going to go out there and make sure that people want my stuff first. There's a lot of in-betweens that you can do there. You can do a little bit of both. Create a little funnel or something that you have a website for people to visit that's really basic, and just, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But the bottom line is you need to get some sales in regardless. You can't spend too much money trying to establish the brand before you've even proven that anybody wants the product or service that you're trying to sell.
You don't want to go broke either with establishing yourself. Like I see all these people are like, well, once I have blank. And a lot of times I find it to be a website, and no offense to website designers out there, but I actually paid a lot of money to have a pretty, website with a funnel and all this stuff designed. And it took months. And when they finally delivered it, it was straight awful, straight, just every single thing I said I didn't want. And that weekend I was very mad. And so I spent the entirety of a Sunday just building my own in Go High Level. So my point with this is don't be constrained by what you think you need and the money you think you need to spend. And I mean, you're probably saying to yourself like, oh, I have no idea how to even start building a website in Go High Level. Okay, that's fine. Like there's a million places out there where you can get even like through GoDaddy and all that stuff, you can get a splash page for cheap. But my point is like, don't take all of your money that you need for startup and spend it on something like that. Like it would be better to spend it on like pay-per-click ads or Facebook ads or, networking groups. I spent a lot of money to join networking groups and go to networking events. And honestly, I got so much more out of that than my website.
Well, especially the types of business owners that we're usually talking to are mostly businesses that people know they need, right? They're plumbers, they're HVAC, they're roofers, they're solar. Like people already know these businesses exist. They already have a need for it. It's more about selling you and your company as to why you're different versus selling the concept overall, which makes it easier actually. You have less need for a website right off the bat. You can join a BNI group, you can join another networking group in your area where you are the established person in that field and you're just going out there making a name for yourself, get some sales, buy some business cards, little things like that can go a long way, and you can have help getting those designs on Canva, or like you said, GoDaddy will make templates for you depending on what type of business you're in. Literally create a very decent looking website for you just based on AI now. AI can help with a lot of these things now in just creating these very simple websites just based off the templates they have on those established businesses.
It's like looking at your return on the investment, right? And maybe one day, you do want to spend the money, rebrand, all of that fun stuff. But when you're starting out and you have limited cash, you really need to be strategic about where every single one of those dollars goes. And you want to make sure that it's going into something that's going to give you that quick return. And it needs to go into marketing and sales to begin with. And you never want to lose your eye on sales, because even when you get to, as a big business, sales matter, right? I mean, the bigger your business, the more sales matter, because you have more mouths to feed, and so you never want to take your eye off the ball and making sure that your sales team is performing and doing what they need to do, especially when it comes to close ratios and stuff like that, making sure that you're closing enough of your sales or enough of your estimates so that you're not just like wasting them.
It's very important because, like you said, the bigger you get, the bigger that bottom line has to be just to cover all of your bills. And that's why we think it's so important, not only to do the sales, but to track where that money's going, tracking your estimates, things like that. We've talked about that a lot because that's important. It is important to know that the sales that you're making are actually making your company money, right? You can be selling every person you talk to if your pricing is wrong because you're priced way below the market. And if you're not paying attention to your estimates and making sure that you're not going over budget on those, then of course people are going to buy from you. You're the cheapest one around. If you're doing good work and you're doing it way cheaper, they're going to buy from you all day. But if you're not paying attention to the details behind those sales, you may not realize that every time you sell a particular service, you're costing your company $500.
Margins matter, especially when you're selling more, and especially when you have higher overhead. So a lot of times they'll continue to price stuff out as if they don't have overhead, and then they wonder why they can't pay their bills. And it's like, well, you're barely covering your cost of goods sold. Just really making sure you know those numbers and that you're not inadvertently undercutting yourself. I've always heard the adage that if you get to 60% close ratio or above, that doesn't mean you're a better salesperson. It means you need to raise your price. And I've seen a lot of people kind of wear this as like a badge of honor. Like, I'm so good. I have 80% close ratio. And trust me, I've even been there because as a salesperson, like it feels good. It feels good to be like, I close every day, no matter what I close. But then if you say to yourself, oh man, that means I need to raise my prices, that means that's a whole bunch of money you left on the table.
And that's really important. Like I said, sales is number one. You do have to get money coming in the door. You do need that established pipeline of recurring business, however you can get it. But that's why we always suggest taking that much deeper step, making sure you know those numbers, making sure you're revisiting those numbers on a regular basis, because we've seen it a lot recently with restaurants. Restaurants that we've gone to for a long time have pricing changes on their menus, specifically because of the cost of eggs. And that's a lot of times businesses knowing if it's temporary, will just eat those costs. But it's gotten to the point where a lot of businesses can't those costs. The same thing happened during COVID with supply chain issues. And so revisiting those costs often, especially when there's some sort of an economic issue happening, is important to make sure that you are not only pricing right for what your past business was, but for what your current business is and what the current market says it needs to be.
And I actually liked, because one of the places we go to a lot for brunch, because we love brunch, they actually, instead of like doing a blanket fee on or a blanket price increase across the board, they actually just did a kind of a surcharge for eggs, because eggs are insane here in Colorado right now. I was at the store the other day and it was like this one dozen of eggs, I don't even know what kind it was like $11.50. I'm like, dude, that's like $1 an egg. I remember when eggs were 99 cents a dozen. The point is, the eggs, they went up in crazy price. People are still buying them. People are still eating them. So don't think that someone isn't going to buy your product because of your pricing, even if your competitor is cheaper, because there's always differentiators. And so in your sales process, you just need to bring out those differentiators. But first, you need to know those differentiators. We talk about, you said that plumbers and roofers, everybody knows they need those services, but they need to not just know they need those services, they need to know why you are the best person for them for those services. But for you to be able to communicate that to your potential client, you first have to know it. Dialing in your sales process and who you're selling to will help you to create that cash flow over time.
We deal with this all the time in the mortgage industry. Rates. Everyone wants to know, well, what's your rate? There's about 30 different things that factor into that rate, but that's all people want to hear. And ultimately, you have to decide what kind of clients you're going after. If you've established yourself as a person by being in your marketplace, giving lots of education, educating realtors, educating consumers, then eventually a realtor just says, hey, I really like this guy. Like, I'm going to send my clients to them because I trust him and I know he will do a good job. He's very knowledgeable. And your clients will be so sold on you by that person that they're not really going to even talk about pricing too much with you, because they've already got that established trust and you've already had a pre-built rapport with them. And the same thing is true in all of your businesses too. If you are doing a good job of selling why they need to use you and why you're the best person for them, then they're going to have that pre-built rapport with you also. But what you can't be afraid of is, by selling yourself to the person that you want to work with most, is to just know that you're going to be talking someone else out of working with you. But that person in the end probably wasn't the right fit for you anyway.
I was actually just talking to a client about this yesterday. I was like, you need to be more polarizing. And she was like, but I'm afraid that, people will be mean or people will say things. I'm like, yeah, they will. Like, because what is a magnet? It pulls something to it. But in order for it to pull something to it, it also has to push something away. And the stronger the magnet, the stronger it pulls things to it, but also the more it pushes people away. And so I'm not talking about like being politically polarizing or things like that. But what I mean is like having a stance, truly deciding that your company and you are a certain way, and really leaning into that instead of trying to be in the mushy middle and be nothing to nobody.
And you see this all the time. I know a lot of guys who do marketing who help like loan officers. Obviously, it's my background. A lot of guys who sell loan officers programs on how to generate business for themselves. There's one program that's very popular called Core, and one company that I joined, actually, he wanted to work with the people who didn't want to do Core because they were all about cold calling and doing all of this work that a lot of us just don't like. And so he built his whole marketing campaign around talking trash about the other one. If this program's not for you, then you should probably talk to me, because I'm not selling that. I'm selling something entirely different. And yeah, anybody who was in Core automatically hated this dude, but they were all going to Core anyway, so he didn't care.
Exactly.
He wanted the people who didn't want that type of a program to come to him. And that's exactly the kind of thing we're talking about, where you take a stance with your business on establishing exactly what it is that you do. Are you a luxury deck builder? Are you a run of the meal. I can knock out this project for you quickly. We can get to your home quickly, and we can be in and out with the project done on budget the way that you asked for, and really with no frills. Or sometimes you can be both, but you have to sell those in two different ways.
You have to decide who you want your client to be, and that will help you with sales too. Because if you're trying to be everything to everyone, you will be nothing to no one. And that's okay to, to really take that stance. So don't be afraid. Like in my construction company, the year that we really, really, really niched down and said, hey, these are like the 3 things we're going to offer, that was the year we exploded for real. And so I've been there. I know it was actually scary, but at the same token, it was the best move we ever made. Don't discount your sales. Make sure you do it. Decide who you're selling to.
Don't be afraid. There's that scarcity that always creeps in, right? You're always going to think, what if I say this and I really want to help? You want to help everyone, especially when you're establishing a business, because you really feel like you need every single sale. And we're kind of polarizing here, talking about you have to sell, but just trust that the way that you sell will matter more than selling everything to everyone. It also helps you keep your numbers in line. The less services you offer, the more dialed in you can be on those services, the more of an expert you can be on those services. All of that matters, so just kind of keep all of that in mind.
And go out there and sell like hell.
There you go.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Blue Collar Wealth Club today. We'll catch you next time.